If I had a nickel for every female-centric Frankenstein film titled The Bride that ended up being a box office failure, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Despite my preference for Frankenstein adaptations that make Victor's relationship to his creature the narrative focal point, I'm always down to watch anything Frankenstein related. So I was excited to see The Bride last Friday, and having seen it, I have mixed thoughts, so consider this my very hastily scripted review of the film. Starting off with the positives, the creature is by far the best character of the film. I've never been a big fan of him being quote-unquote owed a mate, but I really like how his relationship to the bride is done here. For one, he isn't picking off innocent lives when they dare to defy him like in the original Frankenstein. He's just a lonely, if at times eccentric man who promises to cherish the woman created for him and goes above and beyond to keep her safe. After he kills 2 men while protecting the bride, he immediately tells her to leave him so she doesn't get caught up in a life of crime. Considering how much their relationship meant to him, the fact that he's so quick to break things off to protect her really speaks volumes to how much he genuinely cares for her, and it really makes you root for the couple. Even though he's technically lying to her throughout the entire film by claiming they were engaged before a quote-unquote accident left her with amnesia, his actor does a great job making his lies be far more wishful and tragic than outright malicious, though her frustration upon finding out the truth is totally valid. I also have a lot of respect for the references to the Universal Frankenstein films and Mary Shelley's life sprinkled throughout the film. Professor Euphorius is an obvious callback to the Bride of Frankenstein's Professor Pretorius, as is Mary Shelley and the Bride sharing the same actor. The film's mafia setting and costume designs were all great, and I audibly laughed in the theater when the creature told the bride that their only choice was to live before they started furiously making out in the street, because that line hit a lot differently in Guillermo del Toro's film. Oh man, what a contrast. Unfortunately, that is where my positives for this film end. I feel like there's a lot of good ideas here that were left half-baked and don't really go anywhere in the story, to the point that I wonder what this film is even trying to say. The main theme appears to be the bride becoming her own person and escaping the shadow of being the Bride of Frankenstein, but it's not very well implemented at all. I mean, she stands up for women by speaking out against the mafia twice and sparks a revolution, but beyond that, she doesn't really do anything to forward this goal, and it's hastily resolved in the end credits. And as much as I love the concept of the creature ending up with a mate who he loves and cherishes while not picking off people like in the original Frankenstein, I feel like that concept kind of butts heads with the feminist angle the film's going for a bit. The bride is surrounded by men who use her and abuse her for their own gain and lie to her, which she's encouraged to fight against. Yet when she discovers that the creature who she thought was her husband is doing the exact same thing, she just forgives him in the same scene? Don't get me wrong, I'm not against them being together, and I appreciate a feminist film where the girl isn't anti-man by the end, but she forgives the creature way too quickly for essentially hijacking who she is as a person and trying to mold her into being his companion. The whole naming scheme for the bride is kind of off too. The end of the bride has what's supposed to be this big character milestone where she chooses to give herself the name The Bride instead of the Bride of Frankenstein, to showcase that she's her own person instead of the creature's mate. But a bride is a term used to link a woman to their partner, so choosing the name The Bride isn't really declaring independence from the creature. It all seemed a bit clunky, and the bride forgiving the creature so quickly kind of soured the ending for me a bit. That's nothing compared to the beginning of the film though, which is by far the worst part. For reasons I don't quite understand, this film is a frame narrative in which Mary Shelley, yes, that one, is telling us a sequel to her original story. Now, having a woman writer who was largely ignored in her day getting a chance to tell a feminist story with her characters is a premise with a lot of potential. But having Mary Shelley in a dark room dropping every vulgar term in the book before possessing a woman who gets pushed down the stairs and dies in order to be reanimated as the bride is not the way to do this. I assume this choice was done to make the film seem meta and smart by having Mary be a constant voice in the bride's head encouraging her to be her own woman, but it just falls flat for me. The constant references to Mary Shelley's real-life brain tumor with over-the-top dialogue also came off as just a tad disrespectful. The play Mary Shelley's Frankenstein does the whole Mary Shelley reflecting on her life through the Frankenstein characters infinitely better. It features Mary and those present for Lord Byron's Ghost Story contest acting out Frankenstein while switching between their reality and Frankenstein's fiction, But as the play progresses, that careful line begins to blur. When Elizabeth, who is also Mary, asks Victor, who is also Percy, why she's not enough for him to make him stay with her, it really hits home. As does Mary being overcome with emotion when describing Victor's near death at sea, as she has the foresight to know that this plot point for her fictional story will be how her husband actually dies. That, my friends, is how you integrate Mary Shelley into the world of Frankenstein, not whatever the heck this is. The inclusion of Mary Shelley, in addition to the multitude of literary references used in The Bride, makes it seem like the film is trying to come off as smart like Poor Things, but lacks the abstract visuals and plot to pull it off. Like, at all. I'll be honest, guys, I didn't exactly have meta eldritch horror Mary Shelley possession feminist mafia film on my 2026 bingo card, but I'm not surprised it got released before GTA 6. So yeah, that's my briefest of thoughts on The Bride. I rate it 2 leg braces out of 5. If you want more Frankenstein content, it's worth the watch, but on a streaming service, I wouldn't pay money to see it in theaters, and I would prefer not to watch it again. On a side note though, The Bride has reminded me of the actual Bride of Frankenstein, Elizabeth Lavenza. Believe it or not, there's quite a few Frankenstein retellings told from her perspective, and in my humble opinion, a good chunk of them are far superior than The Bride. So stay tuned for my upcoming Elizabeth video that will be exploring the various ways she's been adapted in Frankenstein media over the years. According to my polling, this is what the people want, and I intend to deliver. And I should also probably mention my own Frankenstein retelling, available for pre-order now, link in the description. So yeah, that's it. Bye!